We're going to do this painting today of the 7-foot knoll lighthouse in the inner Baltimore harbor. It's kind of a tricky thing to draw out, so take your time whenever you're drawing it out. It was sure a lot of fun to paint. We're going to talk about simplifying things that are complicated. I was there, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, saw this place. It was so cool. Actually took the photos that we worked from on a taxi ferry going across the harbor. It was just really a neat place. If you click on the link below, it takes you to the full version of this painting. So be sure and check it out. Thanks so much. We're going to be talking today about simplifying the complicated. It's a real key part of not just art, but almost all of life. I mean, life can be really complicated, and just to keep things simple is, oh my goodness, it can help so much. Well, you can see that I'm taking my time doing this oval. Because boy, if this isn't right, nothing else is going to be right. If your foundation's not right, everything's going to be off. So I've gone just a little bit darker along the bottom. The reason is that there is a railing around this, and I'm trying to mimic that by just making it a little bit darker. So rather than trying to paint 50 million pieces of metal along this railing, I'm just making the whole thing a little tiny bit darker. So this is kind of one of the first steps in simplifying this thing. We just want to keep our eye on the whole painting. And that's one of the ways that keeps us from going to seed on detail, is because we're looking at the entire painting and how it affects the whole painting. Right now I'm painting the railings. Again, I'm simplifying these railings. Instead of trying to paint a whole bunch of individual railings, I'm just doing a few strokes in there to kind of mimic that look. Sense that there's something in there. Fine things. If you want to paint something simpler, try using a really big brush. It's almost impossible to paint picky with a great big brush. I'll pause, I'll put down a stroke and look at it, put down another stroke and look at it. And the idea is I'm waiting to get a stroke that I like, and as soon as I get a stroke that I like, I can leave it alone and go on to the next area. Try to use big, simple strokes to indicate these trees and the shrubbery and all that. All of this detail kind of stuff, just as simple as I can paint it. I don't have to be exact. I'm just trying to suggest these things. It's finally come time to start putting some of this lower, below the right lighthouse stuff in. I'm trying to match the edges that I see and the shapes that I see. This is like a staircase going up to the lighthouse itself, but I'm just painting shapes and values and colors and edges. This is one of those times whenever simplifying is going to be real important, because all of this back there is so complicated that I just don't need to make it that complicated to make it work. So if I put all of the detail that I see in that building way down in there in that corner, it would distract from the star of the show, which is the lighthouse. Rather than do that, I'd rather keep it a little looser, a little blurry, not very distinct, because the way I want to paint the building off on the bottom left is the way you would see that building when you're looking at the lighthouse. In other words, I don't want to paint it the way I see it when I look directly at it. I want to paint it the way I would see it out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, so as I'm painting this window in, notice whenever I get down to the bottom where it's partially covered by the railing, I'll kind of break it up a little bit more. Notice I'm using a big old number 8 brush to do this stuff with, and there's some other railings in here that I'm actually kind of leaving as I paint this. I'm just leaving spaces for those rails. And in other words, it's kind of painting detail in reverse. Yeah, at times I'm trying to be as accurate as I can to what I see, and then there's times whenever I shift into a different mindset where I paint what I feel like the painting needs. Hey, hope you had fun joining us for this one. The 7-foot knoll lighthouse in the Baltimore harbor. We looked at how to simplify things that are complicated. So there's a lot of picky stuff in this one. We kind of made it a little simpler. So that's a fun thing to do when you're painting. Hope you can join us again for the next video. Thanks so much.